Okay, this video is called Is Ectolife the Future of Families? And it's based on this picture. This company, Ectolife, just made this video about the future of artificial wombs for having babies. And of course, it's an exaggeration. They cannot have babies in these incubators yet. But the reason why it's interesting, I think it's interesting and funny and at the same time crazy and scary, is because I think they actually want to have these types of things. By the way, a woman becoming pregnant and giving birth to a baby is like one of the most complicated things in the world in terms of the complexity of the biology and embryology. You know, in med school, they can barely even describe what's happening in an embryo. But there's sort of this idea because computer science technology really has improved. Obviously, there's the internet, there's cell phones, and they can do incredible things, and it actually really works. You type in your password, you get access. You could be blocked out. You could purchase things. You could do all kinds of things. Computers and computer technology and cell phone technology, it works. But I got a dirty little secret for you that most people don't know. Most biology technology, most medical technology, it doesn't actually work. Just because you say this pill is the treatment for coronary artery disease, that doesn't mean it works. That just means the company that makes that pill was able to convince the advertisers and get it approved and start selling it. You know, the pills that actually do have a definite usefulness, be like if you have no thyroid hormone replacement can help you. You got no dopamine replacement can help a Parkinson's patient, but there's other things that can help a lot too. But what I'm trying to say is most of these other medicines, they're just poisons. They don't really help. They don't make anything better. They maybe slow down the symptoms a little bit, but it's sort of a fantasy to think that biology science is actually way behind where it potentially could be. And I'll even say something funnier about that. You could take some little podunk hospital in the most poor area and simply give them the right to use the low-fat vegan diet, and they would get better results than Harvard at all these chronic diseases. That's what's funny, and that's why the major universities have become a joke for treatment of chronic disease. They stink, okay? All right, anyways, getting back to this thing. Hedonism weakens people. There's different pathways to sort of control the people. The Brave New World by Aldous Huxley is a great book, and it came along, I don't know, back around the 1930s or so. And one of the things that this reminded me of, it talked about having a hatchery for children. And that's also relevant because there's a movement afoot with modern pop culture, this idea of who needs a family, who needs God. All these past things are just irrelevant. No, they're not. You know, belief in God and family, that has created happiness for mankind since the beginning of recorded history. And you shouldn't forget it. The idea of children being raised by strangers or machines is insane. Plato started talking about this around 300 years before Christ with regard to, you know, Plato's Republic and the idea that Sparta had defeated Athens and therefore he wanted to imitate some of the ways of Sparta. But, you know, a great book to read is The Cave in the Light, which is really the difference between Aristotle and Plato. And Plato was down that path of totalitarianism, eugenics, and, you know, controlled breeding of humans to make a stronger city. Versus Aristotle was more down-to-earth biologist, a real thinker. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is all this pop culture idea of you don't need a family, you don't need God, it weakens people and makes them hedonistic and kind of stupid. Religion strengthens people. Having an intact family strengthens people. Having stoicism strengthens people. And I think the long-term goal of all this social engineering, as far as I can tell, is to get rid of the traditional family, to get rid of Christian morality. And I think the reason for all that is if people lose their families and their religion and all that, then they just become, you know, a lot more like, and there's no God, then so they're not really part of a religion or any group or family group or anything. They're all isolated individuals and they become like farm animals because if we're not, you know, divine creatures created in the image of God, then we're really just talking primates. And a talking primate in a society where there is no God, there's no religion in the society, then that means whoever the ruler is, that person is the equivalent of God, so to speak. Whatever they say goes. And that's why atheism is so popular, like in, you know, Russia, communist Russia in the 1900s, because once atheism is the standard for the culture, the ruler becomes the equivalent of God, and all the people of that town, all the citizens, They're no longer created in the image of God. They are talking primates, talking monkeys, and they are owned by the ruler. And then once the ruler owns them, like a farmer owns livestock, like chickens and cattle, the farmer does whatever it wants with them. A farmer doesn't allow his cow to have a family. He takes the baby and sells it for veal, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, once people allow themselves to be made into livestock, which they seem, I'm amazed how happy people seem to be to let all this happen. They're just so ignorant, they're not even aware of it. If a farmer's not going to allow his livestock to have a family, why should they allow a person to have a family? So what I'm trying to say is, be careful. Don't think all this social engineering stuff's just a joke. It's not. It's designed to take away your family, to take away your children, to take away your traditional way of life. And you should be aware that it's not as innocent as it pretends to be. And this Ectolife thing was just a rather extraordinary example of that. You watch the video and you see how crazy it is. And again, it's like something out of Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And by the way, Aldous Huxley, fell for his own nonsense. He became a drug addict and ruined his life, even though he was a brilliant guy. It's one of the best novels of all time. So Ectolife, I think, is a joke, and it's not funny. It's scary rather than funny. So anyways, hope that was interesting.